All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the a special meeting of the DeKalb City Council for April 1st, 2024 to order. Roll call, please.
Zasada.
Here.
Larson. Here. Smith.
Here.
Perkins.
Here.
Verbic.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Mayor Barnes.
Here.
7 present.
All right, moving on to, we don't do the Pledge of Allegiance on a special meeting? Really? Okay. All right, moving on to agenda item B, approval of the agenda. I take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Verbic, seconded by Alderwoman Larson. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Zasada.
Yes.
Larson. Yes. Smith.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
7 aye.
All right, moving on to agenda item C, public participation. Mr. Charbot?
First, compliments. I'm glad that we are addressing this issue, and the city itself is doing the right thing in trying to keep the taxpayer whole here and paying the same amount. The one issue that I do have that is clearly not addressed in this, and it's something you will approve, this council is also responsible for approving the library portion of the tax levy. Now, I noticed that the library pass-through portion is at $3.387 million, which is the exact same amount as the amount that was passed by this council in December. Now, according to the backup material, it says their new tax rate is going to be 0.35573, which is 5.2% lower than the 2022 rate. However, since the properties at the Board of Review were all, well, at least those who appealed, were brought down by quite a bit to obviously force a special meeting, this council and this agenda is not compensating for the library portion. There is nothing in here about the effect that the library portion of the levy will have on the average home. That amount, dollar amount, is going to go up. When the Board of Review, I appreciate you agreeing with me, but it's clearly lacking, and I hope council will direct this attention to the city manager as to why there's not a revision on the library portion, which you guys approved before, and you can change to adjust downward as well if you choose to do so. As a result of this, the city's going to keep the taxpayer at the same amount for their portion, but when you combine the city with the library, taxpayers are going to pay more when they get their bills next month. I would strongly recommend that this council either call the library board, I know we only have a few days here to have a special, what's the 4th of the month or whatever it's got to be done by, or you have the purview. You approve the library's portion of the tax levy and have them bring their amount down. You don't have to actually ask them. You guys can approve it. So please consider that and let people know that they are going to pay more in taxes, but it's going toward the library. Remember, this council has made an issue about appointees to the library board lacking finance experience. This goes to prove to you that they're not thinking ahead, which I'll compliment the council. You guys are, at least in this case, but why that wasn't communicated to the library board is a question to perhaps direct to our city manager. That's an important factor to keep in mind. So I just want to bring that to your attention, that folks will see a 5% increase approximately of dollars paid to the library on their tax bills. If the council didn't do this, it would be closer to 10%, I think, total, but still the library is gaining another additional 5% as a result of the levies being brought down on the properties, especially at the south end of town. Thank you.
Ms. Martinez. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes.
The minutes have never reflected that since I, a Hispanic victim and witness of intimidation, wanting my anonymity, publicly came forward at the February 12th, 2024 council meeting, saying we were being denied criminal investigations because we were Hispanic. Racially motivated DeKalb City officials have decided to double down, deliberately attacking, intimidating witnesses by, in violation of law, treating me an Hispanic victim and a witness of intimidation in the following, for instance, but not limited ways. Despite I, a Hispanic victim and a witness of intimidation, wanted my anonymity, Mayor Cohen Barnes and Alderman Carolyn Morris-Zada publicly, deliberately identified me, which led to the media also identifying me. After I came forward, Alderman Carolyn Morris-Zada, a 76th district candidate, to discredit witnesses, she publicly posted and has made several public statements she knew to be false, lying to the public as it relates to me and my family's particular situation. The recording secretary, who my brother had already complained about, is the same person who is now abusing her position, falsifying the minutes by manipulating, omitting, delaying the minutes, misrepresenting, not accurately recording, documenting the minutes, which benefits the city and harms minorities such as myself and my family. As of this date, the March 11, 2024 minutes have not been released to the public for one to see if the minutes match with what actually happened at the March 11, 2024 DeKalb City Council meeting, which is unprofessional and not timely and is being done deliberately. The city's relationship and influence with the media has led to unscrupulous media, for instance, the Northern Star, WLBK, the Daily Chronicle, and the Midweek, reporting statements of Mayor Cohen Barnes and Alderman John Walker as it relates to me and my family's particular situation, that Mayor Cohen Barnes and John Walker knew to be false in a betrayal of the public trust, lying to the public, while the fact that after Alderman Scott McAdams, who publicly defended Bill Nicholas, was publicly condemned by the chair of the DeKalb County Democratic Party for using racial slurs, McAdams resigned. Yet to date, Alderman McAdams' racial comments have not been publicly denounced by the DeKalb City Council. I, a victim and witness of intimidation, have been harmed and discriminated against by these criminal actions, and this new separate official misconduct and witness of intimidation against me must be investigated. These criminal actions send the wrong message to other victims of crimes who come forward and must not be allowed to continue. This concerns all taxpayers. If I have left anything out, it is due to this rushed special meeting. Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item D, ordinances, first reading. Number 1, ordinance 2024-019, abating and amending the 2023 levy and 2024 collection of taxes in and for the corporate and municipal purposes and special service areas of the city of DeKalb for fiscal year 2024. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Perkins, seconded by Alderwoman Zazada. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for being here tonight and taking some time out for a special meeting such as this. And I think it's an important occasion to meet, and which is why I recommended that we do this. The trigger for this meeting was the publication of the city's EAV for 23, which affects obviously the rate for 24. And that came out on March 22nd. We didn't have a meeting on the 25th. This is the first occasion, and it's an important occasion because on April 4th, according to county officials, a final decision on the city's levy has to be made. We haven't done this before, to go back and revise a levy, but I think it's important to do it now. We've had, as you know, some extraordinary development with some very large numbers in terms of EAV growth. And that EAV growth this year was tremendous again. We had 171 million in new construction, and that's all to the good. But how we calculate our levy is, of course, based on our best guess in the fall. And it is just that, a best guess, because we don't know the final number that's going to control what the rate's going to be until, in this case, March 21st. So there was an extraordinary number of property tax appeals with the large 9.53% multiplier this year. Last year we had 13 appeals, even though there was almost a 7% multiplier. This year we had 51, and almost all of them were for properties that remained vacant, and that seemed to be a consistent rationale presented to the appeals board, and in 51 cases they agreed with a final number. And that knocked us down about $25 million in terms of overall EAV, a stupendous amount. In many years, in the past 10 or 20 years, 25 million of new construction a year was a good year. So that made a difference. And as I calculated, as I and a number of my counterparts do in our local government bodies every year, once we get that notice, I saw a resulting rate that would still be 5% below last year's, but it would mean, as you see in the top of page 2 in your background, and in that yellow highlighted area, would mean out-of-pocket taxes increasing for the city's portion of the property tax bill. And you gave us, at the staff level, some very clear direction. You didn't want that to happen last November and December. I took that seriously. So what I have before you tonight is a proposal to lower our levy so that the resulting rate is going to be 0.81096, which should be a couple dollars less in terms of out-of-pocket expenses for the property taxpayer in our community for the city's portion of the rate. Now, it was mentioned tonight, what about the library? Where are they? Under state statute, we talk about this every year. Under state statute, the library board passes a budget every year, and that's based on an assumption about a levy, and they set their levy. You pass it through in terms of the corporate levy as defined in state statute. Now, we have in the past jawboned around that levy, whatever it is, just to make sure that the rate is consistent with your view that property taxpayers should be seeing some benefit at this point with the new growth that's been happening. But the library board, through their executive director, like every other local taxing body, was notified just as we were. And I have nothing to report from the library or from any of the other taxing bodies for that matter. But I thought it's important for you to take action before the deadline, and that's why we're here tonight. I strongly recommend what's in your background tonight, which is a levy of $7,723,459, which will lead to a rate of 0.81096.
Council, questions or comments? Right, we've worked hard on keeping our property tax rate lowered and lowered and lowered every year. I really hope all the other governing bodies, taxing bodies throughout the city of DeKalb are doing exactly the same thing before the deadline hits. Otherwise, all the taxing bodies are going to see, well, all the residents are going to see an increase in dollars in their property tax bill if the other taxing bodies don't do exactly what we're doing tonight. So I'm really happy and proud that we have the ability to be able to meet as quickly as we did in order to address this situation and live up to what we've been preaching for so long, which is we need to make sure with all this unprecedented historic economic development that we put the taxpayer first in these conversations because we can. Our levy is going up $1 million roughly from last year, and that's after this reduction, $1 million. How could we not make sure that the taxpayer is held harmless in this situation? So I'm definitely voting for this and proud to do so. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Alderman Burbick.
Just back to the library. So if their board chooses not to take action, yet we are the ones supporting or not supporting, could we just make an amendment for their levy now to match 0.81096?
No, we can't. We can't set their levy, set their rate. We can't set their levy. But, and we don't have, as we did in the fall a year ago, the opportunity, weeks to engage in conversation and back and forth and attend meetings and work out a compromise. We have 3 days. And it's not our choice, to not choose is to choose. And if other taxing bodies are not taking the time and putting in the effort as you are to make the appropriate change, then that's something that they're going to have to answer for.
And clarification, we can't pass our levy without passing theirs.
That's correct.
So we're tied.
It's corporate,
Yeah.
right. And, well, you know, they've already filed, and if they don't refile like
Yeah.
we have, then it doesn't change. And we pass that through, so that's, you know, legally, we don't get to make that choice.
So we can't force it by amending the
No.
amount that we
No.
agree to levy.
Yes, Alderman Smith.
Bill, are any of the other taxing bodies having meetings that we are aware of? I mean, they
Not
would-
aware
I've
of,
seen nothing
I know
posted.
that there's conversation going on, at least one,
Right.
but I don't know if they're gonna, I haven't seen a meeting.
That has to
that-
publish on Thursday, correct? So they'd have to meet.
48 hours before the deadline.
So about two. Okay, thank you.
Again, hopefully, all the taxing bodies are gonna be doing exactly what we're doing right now.
So there are people with fiduciary responsibility, just like you have with these other taxing bodies. They know how to read and write. They get these notices just as we do. Many of them have been around for a long time serving, and they know what this means. So we can only do so much. I didn't call all of my counterparts in 8 other taxing bodies and say, hey, did you get your, that's not my job, and I assume they know what their job is.
We worked hard over 2023 to get to the point of trying to get as many taxing bodies as possible to hold the taxpayer harmless. But you're right, there's only so much that we can do, and I'm glad we're doing our part here. Other comments or questions? Yes?
So
Alderman
if they do call a meeting, the library board, and then it has to come back around to us again, can I just make the motion this evening to match the library levy to .81096, get a second, and then this is what we believe the library levy should be?
I have
As the
no,
corporate
I have no
authority.
reason to believe there'll be a library board meeting, and the executive director is out of town.
But ultimately, if I heard correctly, what you're saying is, we can't do that because the
I-
board has to set the levy.
The board does, and I don't think there's any way that you can speak for them at this time. But, and statutorily, you don't, so.
Yes,
They
Alderman
can
Perkins.
agree, but you can't tell them what to think,
Right.
in effect.
So if I understand that correctly, if we did something like that, if we made a motion like that, then effectively we couldn't pass this evening. And we wouldn't be in a position of meeting the requirement of the 4th of April, right?
Yeah, I think it's imperative that we pass this, or else we'll be explaining to a lot of taxpayers why we couldn't take action.
But
I
I
think-
guess what I'm saying is if we tried to amend it, we would be in a position of taking no action. So then if we take no action, it goes out as it was originally published.
That's correct.
Right?
So, yes, Alderman Burt.
But then if this doesn't work out, then we would have the authority to back it out next year. So if they levy for too much this year, we can say, as the authority, that we are going to reduce it next year because you did not back it out this year.
We can't, under any circumstances, tell them, but we can certainly say that and tell them, we feel there's a duty here, and you can say that. And looking at the combination of the 2 years, you know, this is what you do. But we can't tell them that, that's clear.
Because if we approve a different rate than what they have right now, we have essentially told them what their levy is going to be. And from what I'm hearing, we
That's
are
correct.
not, according to state statute, allowed to do that.
We can't do it
So
for
we
them.
can't. Now,
Uh,
if the library decided to meet tomorrow and vote and change,
Mm-hmm.
we could meet again and prove this with their adjusted
Uh,
levy.
My understanding is if they do that, they can file with the county, and the county will carry that through at the time, in the coming days, when they close the book, basically.
Okay, so the library could act independently, adjust their rate.
But they have to act. We
Yeah.
can't act for them.
Alderwoman Larson.
Well, kind of on that same thought, could we not put in their rate, but say that if the library should meet and have a lower rate, that we would automatically approve it? but
So-
not saying what rate that is.
No, here's why. So
Okay.
I think in your background, you saw how the ordinance looked back in November. It's the same, essentially, except it's got a few different numbers. And as you go through that ordinance, you get to a section that talks about what is going to be levied. And we, because they pass it through us, we hand their decision on the levy to the county officials. And there are boxes that we have to fill in that say, this is the total that's going to be levied. And when we get our computation report, it shows that, the total levies, which include the library's levy. So we are the handmaiden basically for them on this. That's the way it is in law. So we have to, as an attachment to your ordinance tonight, it's the same type of format, but just with a couple different numbers. And the only numbers that really change are the levy that we have for the police pension and the fire pension. Everything else, you voted to carry through some levies for special service areas last fall, and those are carried through, and the same numbers are there. But we can't change, or we can't leave theirs off. Their board has voted, this is what we want, and that's where we stand right now. Their board is not here with you, the board has not taken action to this point.
Which is why I'd love to separate, like we've talked
Well,
about. Yeah, I know.
and
That's
only-
barrier
at some
than-
point, there may be a separate library district.
Yep.
But that doesn't exist currently.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Alderwoman Zada.
I guess just that I'm glad that we're doing this. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Thank you for making sure that we continue to work toward holding the taxpayers harmless. And I will certainly be reaching out to taxing bodies, trying to see where they're at and encouraging them in the direction that that would truly hold taxpayers harmless. So,
Thank you.
Any others? All right, roll call, please.
Larson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zasada,
yes.
Mayor Barnes,
Yes.
7-9.
Ordinance 2024-019 has been passed on first reading. I take a motion to waive second reading.
So moved.
Second,
Moved by Alderman Perkins, seconded by Alderwoman Zazada. Questions or comments on that? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zasada,
yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes,
Yes.
7-9.
Second reading has been waived for ordinance 2024-019. With that, moving on to agenda item E, adjournment. I take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderwoman Zazada, seconded by Alderman Walker. All in favor, say aye.
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 Nay, same sign. We are adjourned.